Cake pops for days. Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you a foolproof method of making cake pops or making confetti, funfetti cake pops. If you're new around here, I'm Lydia and I love to make cake pops. I'll link my other cake pop recipes in this playlist right here. If you guys want to check it out, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm going to be sharing how I get my cake pops perfect every time. Of course, there's always like a little mishap that happens to me all the time, but I'm gonna give you my tips so you guys can make these foolproof in your own kitchen. I hope my tips help you out, inspire you, and you get to making your own cake pops without fearing that you're gonna mess up, because that fear is legit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're new around here, make sure you consider subscribing. Without any further ado, I'm going to be showing you how to make a foolproof confetti, funfetti cake pop recipe. And of course, you can change it up. You can make chocolate. You can make these for baby showers, weddings, birthday parties, whatever, just make these. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. To get started on these foolproof funfetti confetti cake pops, I like to use boxed cake mix. It's the easiest. It's pretty much foolproof. You can't really mess it up. So all I do is I follow the package instructions, which is basically adding your cake mix, your water, oil, and eggs to a large bowl, beating it for 2 minutes, scraping the sides to make sure everything is mixed up and pretty much all incorporated. Then you want to add this batter to your greased baking dish. So I'm using a 9 by 13 inch baking dish. Make sure you scrape out all of that batter because of course you want to get as many cake pops as you possibly can for this recipe. Flatten the top of your cake mix, and then you want to bake it in a preheated oven according to your package instructions. And then you want to pull it out and let it cool completely. You want this to be cooled completely before you turn this cake into cake pops, because if you don't, it kind of doesn't work out. So bake it and then pull it out. I like to bake mine the day before and then I just let it cool completely, and the next day I'm ready to assemble the cake pops. Once you're ready to assemble your cake pops and your cake is fully cooled, go ahead and cut the edges of your cake. You don't want the edges because the edges tend to be a little bit harder, and that is not the ideal texture for cake pops. Cake pops are a little bit mushy. Then you can go ahead and pick up your cake like I have here. And since the cake did brown on top, it has that brown caramelization, just gently run a knife across the top. It doesn't take a lot of effort to peel back all of that brown caramelization. The reason I like to do this is because when you go to make the cake pops, if you don't take this brown caramelization, you have like spotted brown stuff in your cake pops and you don't want that. So I went ahead and did this to the top, then I flipped it over and I went ahead and did the same thing to the back. This is also good, you can eat this, so eat it by itself. It's super delicious. Add some frosting to it and you'll be in business and nothing will go to waste. So make sure you do that to the edges too because they're really delicious. So I went ahead and did this on the front and on the back side. It shouldn't take a lot of effort to try to remove all of that brown caramelization. I personally don't mind the extra caramelization. I think it tastes great, but I know it doesn't look that pretty in the finished product and it doesn't take all that much effort. So just go ahead and remove it the best you can. Once you removed it, you can break this cake into big chunks, add it to a large bowl. Make sure it's super large just because it's a lot easier to work with once it looks something like this. Using clean hands, you want to start mixing up everything. Make sure you wash your hands with soap just so you know your hands are nicely cleaned. And when people go to eat your cake pops, you don't have to worry about, you having dirty hands or anybody getting sick or anything like that. Break apart the cake mix until it resembles breadcrumb consistency. You want to have really tiny chunks and you want everything to be pretty much uniformed. I also thought of adding some sprinkles to the stage, but I didn't. I kind of skipped out. So if you do, let me know what happens. Send me a picture on Instagram. I would really love to know. And try not to play too much with your cake mix. Once you are done, it should look something like this. Shout out to my husband who helped me mix it. Add in your frosting. This is store-bought frosting. Add 2 tablespoons. That seems to be the sweet spot. Don't add less, don't add more. And using your clean hands, combine the frosting into the cake. Again, this is store-bought frosting. It's super easy. You don't have to worry about making it. And once you squeeze it, it should come together something like this. And then you could just break it up. Using an ice cream scoop or a cookie scoop that's 1.5 tablespoons big, you want to start forming your cake pops. So grab some of that cake batter and then you want to make sure it's compact by squeezing it into your hands, and then you want to gently roll it in between your palms, and you could add it to a cookie sheet. This is actually a cookie sheet that wasn't so beat up that I thought I should show you guys, but if your cookie sheets, are a little bit beat up like mine, not this one, but my other ones, you can just add parchment paper to the bottom so you don't see that. So I'll be showing you a few times how this whole process works, how to make these cake balls. All you want to do is grab some of that cake mix with your scoop, squeeze it in between your hands, make sure you get all that air out, make sure it's nicely compacted, get any creases out, and then you just want to gently roll it in between your palms. Don't overdo it, be gentle with the rolling, and then just add it to your cookie sheet. Once you have assembled your cake balls, melt your white chocolate, and I'm just doing this over a double boiler, but you can use a microwave and heat it up in 30-second intervals, stirring in between each interval until it is nicely melted. So I'm just doing this on my double boiler, like I said. Once your candy melt is melted and it looks something like this, you are ready to dip your cake pop sticks into the chocolate. So I'm using these cake pop sticks that I bought from Walmart. Make sure you're using cake pop sticks if you're trying to make cake pops. Otherwise, you're just making truffles. Dip the tip into the melted chocolate and then push the stick halfway into your cake pops. As you can see, I'm not using a lot of chocolate. Also be gentle when you are doing this because you don't want your cake balls to, break or anything like that. Place them in the freezer for 15 to 20 minutes. Do not go over. You do want that chocolate to set, with the sticks and the cake balls, and then gently take them out of the freezer. Melt the rest of your chocolate, so I'm using pink, blue, and white. Once your candy melts are melted, add in your flavorless oil and give it a good stir. Since I'm using 3 different colors for my cake pops, I went ahead and only used about 6 ounces of the candy melts per bag, and I only used half of the oil. The recipe is found in my video description, so just make sure you're adjusting accordingly. If you're just using one color, use one of the bags of the 12 ounces and the full amount of oil. Next, these are my sprinkles, and then you are ready to start dipping your cake pops in your candy melts. So go ahead and start working with this really gently. Tap and twirl the extra candy melt off of the cake pop. I'm using my finger to kind of break the fall, if you will, so do not directly tap the stick onto the bowl, because if you do, you risk the cake ball falling off the stick, and you don't want that. You want to get as many cake pops as you can. So tap, twirl, and use your finger or your wrist. Do what you can, just get as much of the chocolate off, and then you can add the sprinkles. I also wanted to go into why I add the flavorless oil to my candy melts, since I get that question so much on my Starbucks birthday cake pop remake. Since cake pops take a while to make and dipping them takes a while too, the oil really helps the candy melts stay melted a little bit longer, so you're not going back and forth melting the candy melts often. Now I'm trying to dip this cake pop into the blue candy melt, and I just wanted to show you that mishaps do happen in my kitchen too. So I think because I bought the off-brand of the candy melts, I think the blue just wasn't working very well. So here I was trying to dip it, and I realized it wasn't going to work, so I did a fresh batch of the blue candy melts. Since it was an off-brand of the pink and the blue, I wouldn't necessarily recommend using the off-brand. I think I would just use Wilton, but that's just my preference, and every time I use Wilton, it worked out really good. The white is actually Wilton, and then the pink and blue are the off-brand. So I'm using pink. I don't like the color of the pink. I think they could have done a better job, but that's just my personal opinion. So I dipped it, and then I tapped the extra off using my finger. I'm using a different type of sprinkle right here. These sprinkles, they have a little bit of a give to them, so they're a little bit more crunchy. The other ones that I dipped the white ones in, they're a little bit softer, so just keep that in mind. Both are excellent. I really like the sprinkles. Just be aware if you are using an off-brand of the candy melts, you might have a little bit of difficulty with them. They might not work as well as the Wilton brand. And no, it's not like I'm sponsored or anything. I just really do prefer the Wilton because I've only had good experiences with them. Then I went ahead and dipped this cake pop into the white. I tapped the extra off, and then I started drizzling some of the pink onto the top of the cake pop. I tried to drizzle it. As you can see, it was like a complete fail. I'm trying to do a marble effect, and it didn't work that well just because the pink, it just, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's because it's the off-brand, so I'm just tapping, twirling. It didn't work as great as it did when I made my red velvet cake pops. Yeah, the marble didn't work as great, but it turned out okay, I guess. And now this is the fresh batch of blue candy melt that I dipped this cake pop into. And it is a little bit more difficult than the pink to get it completely, you know, dipped and submerged and all that stuff. So it was a little bit more difficult to work with it, but it did come off like the extra candy melts. And then I kept tapping it. I took out as much as I could off of it, and then I just went ahead and sprinkled some of these sprinkles on top of it. The more practice you get with cake pops, the more familiar you get with them. They become easier and easier to make, and you don't have as many mistakes. But I'm trying to give you guys like a foolproof version of how to make this. So I'm dipping this one into the white, and then I'm going to be trying to make a marble effect with the blue. It's just a shame because the blue is such a pretty color, but as you can see, it just didn't drizzle quite the way I wanted it to. So I was trying to twirl it and get it, you know, marbled. It wasn't working out. So what I ended up doing was, while it was still wet, I went ahead and added some of the white on top of it. And as you can see, it's a lot easier to work with, the white. And I twirled it around. And I gotta say, this one was one of my favorite cake pops because I think it just turned out beautiful. I know the marble effect isn't something like, you know, celebratory or anything like that, but I really do like doing the marble effect since I, you know, found out how to do it on my red velvet cakes. But yeah, this is what it looks like. You can marble all three colors together, or you can just add sprinkles, or you just leave them simple. It's entirely up to you. I really hope that this tutorial inspired you to make your very own cake pops. Hopefully I took away some of that stigma that comes along with cake pop making. Since this recipe requires you to use cake box mix, I think it takes a lot of the hard thinking out of it for you. Basically, you're just assembling everything together. Make these cake pops next time you have some kind of event, a birthday party, or some kind of baby shower. I think everyone will love them. They'll love you and they'll ask for more. I'm a little too hyped up on sugar. Been having sugar all day. These cake pops don't eat themselves. Someone got to eat them around here. And usually it's me and my husband, because that's how we do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I've inspired you to make your own cake pops. I hope you guys make your own versions. And just send me pictures. Make sure you link me if you ever make my recreations. Share them on Instagram. Tag me. I'll make sure to link my Instagram account so you guys can follow me there if you are interested. Make these cake pops your own. If I missed any tips, check out my playlist. Maybe I have extra tips over there. I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible, but as informative as possible. So if it's super long, well, I'm sorry, but thank you for making it to the very end. I do appreciate that. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Leave me comments of recommendations, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can with your recommendations on actually recreating them. Okay, I hope you guys have a good day. I love you. See you next time. Bye.